You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
All right, Drinks and a Movie podcast. Everybody, special day. I'm over here with Greg, the owner of the Cove Cocktail Bar in West Covina. Greg, thank you for joining me and being down to record at your establishment with me.
Of course. Always glad to talk about whiskey and good stuff.
Yeah, so today we're just going to be talking about the bar, some whiskey, the history of the bar, and just what a wonderful place it is. I mean, I've been wanting to do this for a while because, as I was mentioning to you earlier, I feel like every episode I do, I'm always kind of referencing it in some way, and I have a couple friends that we always come in here and try stuff. You guys have the best whiskey selection in town, like super hard to find allocated stuff, great like bar picks, single barrels, and the best prices ever too, like the most amazing prices. Like you can come and sit here and just try everything, just go down the line, and it's not going to completely destroy your wallet. And I absolutely love the place. So can you just tell us a little bit about like how long have you been running it, and how long has the bar itself been here in this spot?
Absolutely. The bar has a ton of history. I'll start off by saying that it starts in 1953 with the original owners of the place. It started out as an Italian restaurant with a bar, and it was called Luigi's Restaurant back in the day. It started in 1953, and they kept it that way until approximately 1961. 1961, they decided to just like totally ixnay the food and go forward with it just being a bar. So at that point, according to like stuff that I've found, like in the archive, so to speak, like paperwork drafting up like a new incorporation for a place called the Cove versus Luigi's Restaurant, but it all stemmed from like the original liquor license. So it was transferred over to a second owner. At that point, that person owned the bar for what I think is about 25 years. And approximately 1994, they sold it to an elderly couple who owned it for approximately 22 to 23 years. And then I actually worked for that couple. So that was where I got my start at the Cove. And then, 12, almost 13 years into working with them, they decided they were going to close the place down because it was a husband and wife operation for many, many years, But in 2007, the husband passed away. So the wife was left behind to kind of run things on her own. And it got really hard for her because they purchased the bar late in life. They were not youngsters when they got started. From what I was told, they always just wanted to own a bar. You know what I mean? And I think by the time they actually made that happen, they were well into their 50s, you know what I mean? Or late 40s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I don't remember the exact age, but like when I took over this place from them, I want to say the wife who was left behind was in her 90s, right around 93 years old at that point. Yeah. She's still alive and doing fine from what I hear, but a lot of history. So it hasn't changed hands a lot of times. I'm the third owner since 1953.
Damn, okay.
And so although there's a ton of history, it's more so with like the events that have happened here, the things, the happenings of a bar, I guess, in a city like this versus just like, oh, it's had so many different owners and this and that. It's really not like that. It was never really so much a family business. The people that had it, the first owners originally were like a married couple. And then they sold it to a married couple. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like it was ever passed down from like a generational thing. Mm-hmm. That was the misconception with me a lot of times because I had been around for a long time.
Right.
So when I became the owner, everybody was like, you were related to them, weren't you? Or, you had to have some connection to them, right? And I was like, absolutely not. We weren't blood related in any way, shape, or form. We just had a working relationship that was over a decade. And for the most of that decade, it was very good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I guess only a bartender would understand when I say things like it was run in a very old school manner, a very old school capacity. It wasn't like corporate. It wasn't like there was no handbook for the employees or like HR.
I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean? It was like a good old fashioned bar where if like you had a problem, tough shit. You know what I mean? It was like, figure it out, They weren't real hands-on owners. Mm-hmm. We saw them like a couple hours a day. They'd come in and do the books and collect the cash and bring out the booze that we used, like replenish everything for the bar and then take off, you know? So that's kind of the way it was run. After the husband passed away in 2007, they started getting help with their grandkids to kind of facilitate the day-to-day things here. And I think a lot of people just want to own a bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They think I think everybody thinks right off the bat it's a gold mine.
Right.
And then they also think it's easy money and that you just have to sit there and
Just all
you
fun.
get the booze so cheap that, like, you know, it's just a recipe for success. And in fact, you know, a business like this, you have to be married to it. You have to live and breathe it. You know what I mean? So it's like the hours you invest into it and all that kind of stuff. It's not like that at all. And so after a number of years with numerous members of the family trying to help out, things just kind of went downhill. There was things that were being overlooked in the bar, like maintenance and quality wise. And then there was just like stuff like tax issues and just, you know, the things that come along with owning a business like this and not being real hands-on with it. So it was a little bit of a messy transition. And to be honest with you, I wasn't even sure I was going to get the bar. You know what I mean? Like, we had to put out a pretty significant amount of money up front, not knowing if the license was ever going to be mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it was literally presented to me like, hey, we're closing on Friday. And it was like Wednesday.
Wow.
That they told us this, you know, and it was really crazy because this bar has no turnover. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 20 years into this business. You know, the person right behind me has, I want to say 13 years. Then right behind her is a 10-year employee, then a 9 and a 7. You know, it's like once people get in here, it's not something that they don't leave. You know what I mean? So we were devastated because, you know, none of us treated this job as like, oh, we're just these bartenders that come in here and scoop up some cash and go out and party on the weekends.
Right.
You know, some of us have mortgages and serious obligations, you know what I mean? So it wasn't just like some bullshit job. We were literally making a living off this, you know what I mean? So we were pretty crushed. And I got together with an accountant and basically just said, what can we do? You know, and I talked to the lady who owned it and kind of had to like sidewind around her grandkids because I think everybody had just accepted the fact that this place was going to close. Right. You know what I mean? And there was nothing they could do about it. And, you know, it was quite honestly like a bit of a miracle that it happened the way it did time-wise. And I always say that in life, timing is everything. You know, you can't plan for everything. You know what I mean? But just sometimes like the stars line up for you. You know what I mean? And it's that one time where you have to like reach out and grab your opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's kind of what it was with this because I was either about to be unemployed and spending a significant portion of my savings trying to buy this license and waiting to hear if I'm going to get it, or I'm going to do all that and end up being the owner of this bar. You know what I mean? So I was like, shit, man. Like, I don't know what to think, but if I don't do this, there's no chance. Yeah. You know, so I kind of just put my neck on the block and luckily, like I said, everything lined up and I was able to get the business like solvent, square away any debt that was lingering, and then put the liquor license in a position where it was able to be escrowed to myself. Yeah. You know, and it was a really cool experience, to be honest with you. Like, I got to work hand in hand with the lady who owned this bar previously. And again, her grandkids were running this bar for so many years. She was hands off. She didn't know a lot of the stuff that was going on here. Not that it was all bad. Let me put it to you that way. It wasn't like, oh, those grandkids were these horrible people. I mean, we had great times. You know what I mean? But just things got out of control, and I think people started kind of thinking for themselves. Right. Which, I mean, is kind of like a natural reaction, I guess, like a sink or swim or, you know, dog eat dog, however you want to call it. You know what I mean? When the shit hits the fan, sometimes people change, and you know what I mean? It's not like, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody, but it's like, you know, you're not given a lot of time to figure out what to do with your situation. And you're just like, shit, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, I've got responsibilities. Like, we've got to figure this out, you know? So long story short, you know, I was able to pay off the debt and work with the lady who owned it and her kids to facilitate a deal that was fair and that made sense and that got her off the hook for the debt that was incurred while she was not overseeing the bar. You know what I mean? in a matter of like 90 days, I guess it kind of all ironed itself out. You know, the ABC and all the other agencies that govern businesses like this kind of sat back and just waited for the check to clear.
Right.
And, you know, and once everything was paid and settled, they were like, okay, fine, we'll let this license go into escrow. And I think I had like a 45-day period where they wait to make sure nobody else comes forward and money owed or this or that. And while all the ink dries and, you know, and that's kind of how it happened. Bought the bar in 2014 and made some gradual changes right away. And then just kind of, my biggest thing was like, okay, here I am, a bartender, getting the opportunity to own a bar, which I think if you're serious about the trade, that's something that everybody thinks about and wants to do.
Right.
So, you know, I was presented with this cool opportunity, but also I'm like a bartender at heart, not a businessman and certainly not an owner of a business. This is something that I've never even dipped my toe into, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, wow.
I was going to ask about that. Like, did you have previous experience? Like,
I had some retail management experience before this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, that gives you an opportunity to kind of manage people and get an idea of like the responsibilities involved with running a business, but it's not yours. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's still always somebody else's problem. You know what I mean? You have even if you're a manager, you have like a district manager or a regional manager or somebody who's essentially going to catch the heat if shit doesn't go right. You know what I mean? Whereas this is something a little different, you know? I don't know. I think my biggest thing was I didn't want to come in here and be like, okay, now I'm a business owner. You know, we got to conserve on the napkins and like don't use 2 straws and you know what I mean? I wanted to make this like just a fucking killer place for bartenders. Being a bartender that just got my chance at the big seat, you know what I mean? I thought this is the only way to do it. Like I thought of everything that as a bartender, like I kind of had to go without during the years that I worked for the other owners because that kind of stuff wasn't in the budget, whether it be like tools, you know, like equipment behind the bar or whether that just be simple inventory and product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Cove's an old bar with just this long-standing reputation for having great drinks. But back in the day, the great drink was just like a strong drink. It wasn't like, oh, the level of like flavor or the way it was presented and garnished. It wasn't like that. It's always been a neighborhood bar. It was a dive, you know? But everybody just knew it for just being that spot where you go get a great drink for $5, you know what I mean? And it had that reputation. So the good thing about it was there's always just been a loyal following of this bar, you know, for generations. The bad thing about it is that, you know, as a business owner, you don't make a living off having the strongest drink in town, you know? So you kind of have to find a way to navigate, you know? But then, like I said, it was being a new owner. I don't want to come in here and be like, okay, now everything has to be, let's raise those prices. Let's cut the pour back. You know, it wasn't like that. We had a recipe already for success. So it was like, don't be stupid. Don't go in there and try to reinvent the wheel and like change everything that makes the place great. Just, you have to find a way to fine tune this somehow and make it, you know, something that you can make a living off of and that still people can enjoy. Because you have to know your market. That's the other thing about this. Like what I see for myself and what I want for myself is ultimately not exactly where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like I'd love to have something where not necessarily like the cocktails are $25, but where it's just really all about the drink. Where people don't care so much about the price. And it's not that I want to work with rich people or, you know, just you have to have this, you know, crazy expendable, disposable budget. Nothing like that. It's just where like, it's about the drink. You know what I mean? Like people don't ask, well, how much is that? Or, and I get that on whiskeys and stuff like that. That's appropriate because you can be like outrageously shocked at the cost of some of this stuff. You know what I mean? But I'm speaking like specifically about cocktails. You know what I mean? I could do a great cocktail out of this room right here. You know what I mean? If I have the right stuff and you know what I mean? It wasn't an issue for people to say, hey, you know, this is going to cost $15, but it's going to be like something you haven't had before. For me, the struggle is I got to know my market. I got to know my area, where I'm at. You know, what I want for the place is one thing. I have to balance that out with where I'm located and the clientele that are already attached to this business. You know what I mean? Like those are my bread and butter and those are my people. You know what I mean? So it's not like I want to come in here and make this not a place for them. Because they are what built this place. They're what made me and my bartenders who they are. Like that's when we were cutting our teeth. like trying to make something of ourselves and really just not be a person who didn't know. Back in the day, it didn't matter. You didn't have to know the difference between bourbon and scotch.
Right.
People would just order, whiskey and water. And like, it was like saloon style. You know what I mean? I don't want to say Wild West, but back in the day when I first started, the customers were not like what we have now. This is I don't want to say night and day difference, but almost, The cool thing about the Cove, though, is that after all these years and like after all the things that have changed, I get a lot of kickback from customers like, oh man, I heard you guys have like $300 whiskeys here now. And they got this really like bitter look on their face. Like if we came in here and tried to make this into some ritzy place in the middle of West Covina, you know what I mean? Which is clearly not the case.
Yeah.
I try to remind those people like, look, even though there's something on the shelf there that seems really crazy to you because it's $300, it never changed the price of your Bud Light that you drink when you come here. That's still $4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like we have something for everybody. And that's the thing that's really cool about that bar. Like whether or not you're just somebody who got off work and you want to go in there and drink a beer, or you're somebody who's on a date waiting to go to the movies and you just want like a mixed drink before you go sit down, or you're somebody who's really spirit driven and like, I like whiskey and I'm into single malt and I like rare and allocated or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like there's a little something for everybody at this bar. And that's the juggle. That's the balance, is trying to make it that way so that people who come in dressy and nice don't feel like, oh, we're in the wrong spot. Because there's like people playing pool and drinking beers. And you know what I mean? Like the fun thing about this bar is like when I started, I thought, man, I'm friends with people who are like older than my parents. And these people know a lot. They're wise, and a lot of them have experiences that, like, let's be honest, people my age are not going to have. So it's kind of fun to like live those experiences through them and hear the stories and all that stuff. This place was like a melting pot like no other. I could walk in here at like 3-4 in the afternoon and just be in a crowd of 65, 75-year-olds and then 21-year-olds and 30-year-olds and just everybody has one thing in common. They're just here to have a drink. And, there's never been a issue with like, oh, well, we don't associate with that type of people. Like I have groups of doctors that come in here now, and you can spot them out right away because they're just really nicely dressed guys and very professional. And they're leading people in. Like it's one guy that brings 3 other guys. Like, I told you about this place. You got to check this out. And he's kind of like their concierge for the night. He's got them seated at a table, and he's coming up to the bar ordering like Blanton's and Eagle Rare and, Rock Hill Farms and just the things that like guys like this know about this kind of stuff, but they know it's really expensive and hunting these bottles is crazy. And like when you do find a bar that has them, most of the time they're small pours and they're really expensive. And, so I get a really big kick out of that because I see that group of people at like table 1. And then table 2 is like construction workers that just got rained off a job and they're there for that. And table 3 is a date. You know what I mean? Like it's just really, it's a nice mix. I think it would be unfortunate if we just only got like one style of customer. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot that people don't know about the bar just because the neighborhood that it's in is questionable at times. And it's gone like this. Right. And I don't attribute that to like a West Covina problem. I would attribute that to a California problem. I mean, we have rise in homelessness, poverty, drug use, mental illness, and West Covina is not, exempt from that. Being that we're in an older part of town doesn't help us just because I don't want to say they don't care about us because that's not true. Like our city council is very business driven. They're into doing stuff that helps us and that makes sense for them as well. But I feel like some of the stuff that we see happen in this area, you don't see happening in like some of the newer areas. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I've got this fresh on my mind because like West Covina is working on like implementing like a business improvement district right now where like the business owners, the stakeholders in Glendora Avenue here can all kind of get together and figure out how we can fund having security and more lights put in and like beautification projects, planners, things like that, which by the way, I'm all for, because I'm invested in this and this is, I like being here. But it's on my mind because like I hear the comments from people on social media whether it be Facebook or whatever. This particular instance is on Facebook where people are saying, your business is very like something I would be attracted to it. I want to go there. And I think some of the other restaurants and things that are near you are great. But I'm a little bit concerned about walking around out there at night when I'm by myself, because last time I was there was like homeless people on one side, and there's always one guy that's out there talking to himself. And it's kind of like that, you know what I mean? And so business owners like me are like stuck in the middle, because it's like, here we are, that's our neighborhood. Those aren't our customers, and that's not like our people. We're not trying to say, oh, hey, don't mess with the guy that screams at himself out there. Obviously, we want him to find help or a place to go that isn't in front of commerce. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the challenge for us, is because like one of the things I see like on Yelp, people will say, man, I had reservations about going in there, but then once I went in there, it was like, oh, wow, it's nice. And, the people are very welcoming, and the vibe is good, and the drinks are good, and the price is right. But it's just like, I was a little bit tripped out about the exterior, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, shit, there's not a lot we can do about that right now, because we're kind of stuck in limbo with like planning and other departments in the city that have vision for what should happen out there. Mm-hmm. We're all just fighting about who's going to pay for it. You know what I mean?
For sure. Man.
So,
no, that's great. Tons of great information there. I love how you just talk about like the balance of everything too. That I think you've struck a great balance with like the clientele and who this is for. Like you said, you're gonna have people drinking margaritas and Budweiser, and next to them is someone drinking Michter's 20 or something along those lines. And even with the cocktail stuff too, that resonates with me, because I know when someone takes a while to make an old fashioned or Sazerac or anything like that, the longer it takes, the more I appreciate it, because it's like, all right, this individual is like putting time and effort into this drink. And it's not like a negative thing, because with a lot of bars, it's all about speed, like get it out as quick as you can. Mm-hmm. And like it's always appreciated when there's some like care that goes into it.
It's tough, man, because look, you're a business owner. Yeah. You're here to make money. Yeah. And unfortunately, when you're in small spaces like this, you're not going to make your money in volume all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For me, it's important to make sure that people are repeat. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the other thing about having a small location like that, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, it's like, I know you've already waited like 5 minutes for me to get to you. Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want to do is slap something together and like an assembly line and just launch it out to you so that I can get to the next person. It's like, hey, I know you waited and I appreciate that. So I'm going to make sure I make this drink right. And, I want it to be, I always tell my bartenders, I make my drinks the way I want to drink them. Yeah. And I don't cut myself short. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to make it, I'm not a big drinker, to be honest with you. I like to sip and try stuff, but like I don't get drunk very often. And you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm more into like getting the experience of trying things now. And I never would have tried that before. So, like with Coy Hill, for example, you know what I mean? I'm not a solid Jack Daniels drinker. Like there's expressions out there where I'm like, there's no doubt about it. It's really good. But given the fact that I don't drink very often, when I do go to the bar, that's probably not something I'm going to order. You know what I mean? Right. But, when it came to like Coy Hill, for example, I was like, oh, that's something that I just have to try. I'm excited to try this, I pour myself like maybe 3/4 of an ounce or an ounce after one of my shifts and just got to try it and went, wow, it's amazing, And so like, that's kind of like the evolution of owning the bar, I think, because when I was the bartender, it was a different lifestyle. It was more about staying up late and drinking and meeting people and playing pool and like just like I said, that's where you're really like making your bones in this industry. You're kind of figuring out the way to handle everybody, whether or not they're a grumpy old man, a hothead that probably might fight after 3 drinks, the emotional drunk, the constant problem drunk, they're their own worst enemy, where they just are always setting themselves up for like shitty things to happen, and then they got to come in and talk to you about all the shitty things that are happening to them, So I don't know. It's a cool job, honestly. Like if you could stay on the right track and not get sucked into all the dark. Yeah. Because I mean, like, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people in the industry get sucked into drugs. And that's probably like the biggest downfall for bartenders, because it's a nightlife job. Yeah. You're exposed to a different element of people. I think that sometimes bartenders get the idea that they're for the party as well. Yeah. And they don't let the customers do what they do, and they try to kind of jump on that train. And those kind of people don't make it long, you know what I mean? But in this industry, I've also been fortunate to like know people who've retired from this. You know, like I have this lady friend named Dixie, and she's like, you wouldn't know her because she's probably a little bit, I'm older than you. I'm 42. And I caught her at the tail end. You know what I mean? Like she just retired, but like she was a big fucking deal when I was starting out. You know what I mean? I saw her like a month and a half ago, and she's like, kid, I finally did it. I'm done after 42 years behind the bar. And I just went, God damn, 42 years. That's something to be really proud of, because not only did you make a great living, you look great, you're in decent shape, you didn't drink yourself to death, you weren't a drug addict, you didn't have 20 kids, you know what I mean? Like you did it right, and you had a good life, and like enjoyed every second of what you did. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh fuck, I have to go to work today and deal with this or that. It was just, you know, this is what I like to do. I'm fortunate to do something I like. She made the best of it. Most of her regulars now are long gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
And I think it was probably a really good time for her to retire. Age-wise, she's like in good shape. It wasn't like she couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I think she's just at that time in her life, and financially she seems to be okay. And that's weird, because like I read the statistics and I look into stuff, and I'm like, man, like 60-something% of this industry retires into poverty.
Right.
You know, because they don't save. And let's be honest, there's not a lot of bars that are doing, I don't know how to say this, like retirement programs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more or less, you're here, you're now. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, because it makes jobs like this less desirable to quality people.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, man, I got to go out and get that job that I can retire from and have a pension or a 401k to fall back on, whereas bartending generally doesn't offer that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In our case, it does. Like, our bar is legit. We pay. Everybody's on a 401k plan, and we're trying to look towards the future. I look at it more as like a retention plan. I don't want my people to leave. I'm happy with them. I love my staff, man. Like, I tell them all the time, I think I have like one of the most talented bar staffs, because like, not only are you guys good at juggling the everyday curveballs that life throws at you behind the bar, but like, you're good at cocktails. Spirit knowledge is good. Like, hospitality is there. You know what I mean? So those are the things that are important to me.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel proud of them, and I'm happy. I don't want them to go anywhere. When I tell somebody, like, I have a bartender that's been with me for 13 years, that's a point of pride for me.
Yeah.
Because like, you didn't think to go look somewhere else, first of all, but we get along. We just, it's like, it's a family, you know what I mean? And we're fortunate like that. I always thought, like, I'm happy to be a bartender. The money's cool. It's an environment that got me out of like the corporate retail world, which was really tough. I mean, like, I did it, and I hate to say the word people person, but I can accommodate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether or not you're very rude or whatever, I'm pretty adaptable, I guess you could say, you know?
Yeah.
But leaving a job where I was constantly having to like apologize to people for things that happened after they'd spent money at this store, to come into a job where everybody's just so happy to be here. And like, soon I realized, damn, I'm making the same money at this job in 4 days than I would in 5 over there. And I'm getting an extra day off a week. And it sucks that I don't have medical benefits. I get that. But, you know, at that point, I was 22 years old. And I was like, not the biggest priority in my life right now. You know what I mean? Like, let's cut to 10, 15 years later. That's going to matter. But like right now, this is a good deal. And it's really close to my house. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it all worked out for me. I got my start here by a lady named Pam. And Pam was a daytime bartender who had limited shifts. She had like 1 or 2 days. And then a night shift became available, and they gave it to her. She was a daytime bartender, dude. Like, she wasn't fit for the night crowd.
Right.
I will tell you this. She is one of the best bartenders I've known, in the sense that she could deal with people well. People who were angry. However, she had a way about her. And it wasn't like she was old and trying to be like a mom to anybody. She had a little sass to her. You know what I mean? She worked here for a long time, and there were several other bartenders that contributed to me getting to where I was, or where I am now, I should say, in terms of like helping me train and learn about drinks, and like, you know, here, can you cover a day for me? And those coverage shifts kind of gave me like the experience to learn how to operate this on my own. You know what I mean? But all said and done, Pam, she was just like a lady who didn't want to work Tuesday nights. She was just like, I'm a day bartender. And back then, they drank behind the bar. So it was like, you know, she would always have her gin and tonic, little glass off to the side and helping customers and have her little sips. She wasn't a drunk bartender. I don't want to misrepresent like she was plastered, but she had a great time. She made the best of like every day she worked. She never really had bad days. You know what I mean? She just did her job. And so one day she was just like, kid, I can't do this Tuesday night stuff anymore. They're all young. They want drinks that I don't know. I like being, at that time, the Cove opened at 6 a.m. So she was more lined up with that crowd. Yeah. You know, she liked being here at that time too. So she was just like, take it. It's the one shift. I don't want it. And I literally had one night a week here. And that's how I started. You know, I just did that one night. And then other bartenders started noticing like, oh, you're trained and you know what you're doing? I don't want to work Thursday. Can you work Thursday night this week? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the next week it would be a Friday and then a Saturday. And then lo and behold, you know, this lady that was working here for 18 years who had this reputation like you wouldn't believe. I mean, just she was amazing. She was like a sage. You know what I mean? Her knowledge was great. She was a sassy old lady, 18 and a half years behind the bar. When I met her, I thought, how could anybody work in a bar for 18 years? Look at you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. She wore like leggings and like a long blouse, and that was it. She never wore pants or a skirt a day in her life. Everybody used to call her legs because she had really long legs. And she was tall, you know. But she was like 67 years old, you know, approximately. I never really knew how old the lady was, but like I want to say she was before 70, over 60. You know what I mean? She kind of caught notice of me doing stuff around the bar, and then just one day was like, kid, she had the best shift. She had Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night.
There it is.
She's like, kid, I don't want this Thursday. I'm just going to stick with my Friday and Saturdays. And I said, no problem. So then I got the Tuesday, then the Thursday. Then it was like, kid, these Saturdays are really hard on me. You take that. And she held on to her Friday. Yeah. And then Friday got to be too much. And she was done, you know. She did her almost 19 years at the Cove. And she just saw an opportunity to get out and got out. Yeah. And then the next thing you know, I was like, damn, I work here 4 days now. Okay. And then that's when it really started to like make sense in my head. Okay, this is great. Like, honestly, I like to have fun and I'm into it. I've never been a drug guy, so that never really played into me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to worry about that shit. But I thought, man, the money's good. If you could just manage to save it because it's cash. Yeah. You know, like, you can really do something here. And I ended up renting a house really close to here, right over by Queen of the Valley. Right. And had a roommate and just the best times, dude. I mean, the best times. I have some of the best memories of my life happening in this place, you know, just starting to work there and be a customer and meet people. And just, there's nothing like old people wisdom and humor. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you meet a guy who's like 70 something years old, 18 years ago, let's go back. You know what I mean? And they're telling me, man, I bought my house here in West Covina for about $14,000. It's a corner lot over there on Lark Ellen and Cameron or whatever. They're like big houses, you know? And I'm like, Jesus, 14 grand, huh? And I sit there and listen to the stories, you know what I mean? And they always tell me like, you know, I have clothes older than you that I still wear to this day, you know? Like, this shirt I'm wearing is older than you. And I'm like, hey, cool, you know?
Yeah, man, your passion for just the work itself, you know, is actually pretty inspiring. Like, I was in the industry just for like 5 years, from 2016 up until a pandemic, and then I kind of got out of it. And it's like, man, you're making me want to jump back behind Monty and get in there. And I mean, I kind of got to a point where, I mean, I liked it, but I had other passions I wanted to pursue. And there were some things I didn't quite see eye to eye with, but there were some good times. And I do, you know, I've had those moments too of like talking with some of the old timers and like these old LA cats and just all these different characters, people coming in from other countries and states, and they're like, all right, we're gonna be here for the week, coming in every day, and just like there is a family aspect to the people you're with, like the bartenders. It almost feels like especially on those, like a New Year's Eve night, you know, as we get together, we have our shot. It's like, all right, everybody, let's go. We all got each
Yeah.
other's back. There's a lot of camaraderie.
Absolutely.
And I've always loved that aspect of it, especially when you really vibe and gel with all the people you work with.
It's one of the best things about working at a bar like this. Mm-hmm. I know bartenders in all like avenues and all spectrum. Like, I mean, guys that work at the racetrack, guys that work at concert venues, you know what I mean? Like golf clubs that are super high end where the customers aren't even allowed to tip because it's all included in their ridiculous membership fees because they're celebrities and they don't want to feel required to tip because if they don't tip enough, then that person goes to social media and says, so-and-so's a cheapskate. You know what I mean? Like this situation for me is ideal. It's golden. Like being in a bar like this, you get acquainted with people in a way which you would never have thought would have been possible before. Like I have a good family life. I mean, I'm not from like some broken situation where I don't talk to anybody kind of thing, you know? I got my aunts and uncles, my cousins, everybody's cool. Christmas is fun. You know what I mean? Like we enjoy gathering and getting together. Yeah. And that's my family, but this is a group of people that's almost like you chose to be your family. And these people will do anything for you. Like I laugh because even in like bartending groups I'm in on like social media platforms, they'll say like, what's the definition of like dive bartending? What is that like? And you're like, shit, that's like where you have customers that will bring you food every day, move your car when a space opens up clear. You make 30 to 40% gratuity and you never have to worry about problem customers because when somebody acts up, a regular will get up and be like, you get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things are awesome to me versus like, I know casino bartenders and that's cool for them. They're busy all day long. So their days are over quick and they make money in volume because of how many guests they serve. You know what I mean? But they don't get the chance to really soak it up and like really throw it back and forth with somebody and have a conversation or get to know somebody. It's really
just grinding the whole
service
time.
driven, like or they're making cocktails for waitresses that are serving big rooms or whatever. The Cove is a very industry bar in the sense that like we have always had a ton of bartenders frequent us, whether or not you're a bartender, a waiter, waitress, a hostess. If you work in a restaurant, you know about the Cove. You know what I mean? Especially if you work in a restaurant in West Covina. You know what I mean? Like we're so lucky for that because like even guests walk in. And they'll look around, and you can tell they've never been there before because they're just like checking it all out. Okay. And they'll say, I just left Lucille's, and they close at midnight, but the bartenders there told us to come check this place out. And I go, that's really cool. I'll have to remember to say thanks to those guys when I see them. And then an hour and a half later, those guys come. And then they see those customers and they're like, see, I told you. And I'm like, the cool thing about that is that they're never going to recommend us to shitty customers. Like if they're at their bar working and somebody's being a complete ass, they're not going to be like, hey, you know where you should go to the Cove? Because they know they're going to be there in like an hour. You know what I mean? So they're like, they're kind of like hand selecting their good customers, sending them to me. And then they show up later at the end of the night. You know what I mean? So industry has always been like a big part of what we do. I mean, literally we're there for those people through and through. I mean, like we were a 6 a.m. bar for up until I bought the place. I thought, you know what? We just can't support that schedule anymore. The large majority of our customers at that time were police and nurses. And that's a big segment, like cross-section of our customer base. So we do anything for those people because they serve us. You know what I mean? It's all about service in this industry, They serve us, we serve them. So we made ourselves available for them always. But I would say starting like 2014, 15, and 16, the turnout at that time of the morning started to drastically dwindle off. And I think that's for a number of reasons. The heyday is over. Like in terms of people don't get away with doing that anymore. Like even from a police perspective, like guys would tell me like, we don't get leniency. Like if I leave here and I get pulled over, I'm going to jail. Like I can't just show my badge and say, can I get some professional courtesy up in here? You know what I mean? Like, and they follow me home. That doesn't happen anymore. We get busted for this shit and we lose our jobs. You know what I mean? And nurses, kind of the same thing. Like 6, 7 in the morning, we'd get packed. Everybody in smocks. Like the whole crazy. Queen of the Valley staff is here right now after their crazy night shift. You know, little by little, they started coming in later and later and later. And so that's kind of why we switched the hours. We open at 8 a.m. That's still very early for a cocktail bar.
Yeah.
But we're mindful about the bartenders because it's like, man, I don't want to have to schedule somebody to be here at 6 and they haven't made a drink until 7:30.
Right.
You know, or 8 o'clock. What's the point?
Yeah.
I want to be there to serve our community and our guests that are here that know we're an early bar. But at the same time, it has to make sense for everybody. And I feel like 8 a.m. is the compromise. You know what I mean? Like, it's early, but it's not like crack of dawn early. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It works better for scheduling for us to have the shift split up 8 hours, you know? It's changing. It's constantly evolving. Now it's like, the only thing that always stays consistent is like the service industry, the industry. And I think that's always why we've focused so hard on accommodating for them. You know what I mean? It's like, they're really the backbone of the Cove when you look at who the customers are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of course, we have all
sure.
of our locals and the people who've been coming for years. But like when the sun goes down and when the night starts picking up and when things start happening at the bar, you look around, there's a big section of our guests are like in their work outfits because they just got off,
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's cool because some of them are just like, these are the best customers to have, by the way. I mean, they know how to behave because they don't want to be that customer.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
They buy drinks for their friends that they worked with. They have a habit. Like the minute they're done with something, like you can see them like put the napkin in the glass and bring it back up to the bar. Like they can't help but bust their own table. You know?
Yeah.
And we always laugh at that because we try to go out like a lot and get what we can get from them, but you can just see the instinct kick in. And it's like, I got to do this, you know? And those are good people to have because they are mindful of the things that we go through.
Right.
Because they go through it. They're great tippers. They appreciate everything a little bit more, I feel like. So that's one of the groups of customers that I say we cater to them.
Yeah.
You know, just because those are our people. You know what I mean? We have a long history in West Covina, and it's cool to see the demographic because, I mean, it's so old to so young. There's good and bad with that, again, trying to get those two, you know, generations to come together. I mean, forget about it when it comes to music. Like, we have a jukebox in the bar, and people are given free reign to play whatever they want. So they're going to have, like, the Sinatra couple sitting over here, and then you have the, like, group of girls who want to play like Cardi B and it's like they're never gonna you know what I mean? But I feel like it's a really neutral place. The bar's always been like particularly exempt from like prejudices and biases and like politics, thank God. I mean, there's always been that rule in the bar, religion and politics they kind of leave out. I feel like ever since like 2016 all that changed. Politics took a center stage in everything, you know what I mean? And the bar was not any different, you know. It was never like so bad that we used to have to tell people like, hey, no talk about that, you know, because for the most part, like people, even though they don't see eye to eye, they're here, they're not here for that, you know what I mean?
To have a good time,
you know. That was one of the things that was probably the hardest for me during the restrictions we were facing during COVID-19. You know, they closed the bar for 14 months. And I thought, that's just so weird. I mean, I'm not going to argue science. I'm not an epidemiologist, and I didn't go to school for anything like that. I have opinions just like everybody else, and they are worth what everybody else's are, I guess. You know what I mean? But it was hard because, like, we sat back and watched people fighting, like our friends on social media, customers we knew. Screw you. You voted for this, and it's because of you. And, you know, everybody had, like, this really shitty attitude. And I thought, the one place that brings everybody together, whether or not you're black, white, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. Like, the bar is always that one place where you don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? And to be closed for 14 months in the middle of something that was very politicized, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like, that was tough because I felt like, man, we're not doing what we should be doing. We're not able to be there for our guests. We're not being able to like be there for people who normally we would talk through these kind of things.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking away from something that we would normally have a role in, probably making people feel better about.
That's true. I didn't even really think of it that way. That people would kind of come to get away from those frustrations, but then you take that kind of safe place away.
Absolutely.
You know?
And everybody's just at home on their device,
And then you got to put that bad
arguing
energy
and blocking each other
Yeah.
and like, one-upping each other on every comment and all that kind of stuff. And that was kind of weird. I mean, at some point I started to even think, I know it sounds like a conspiracy or one of those like speculations, but like maybe they don't want us like meeting in the middle, and maybe this is a divide and conquer, like, you know what I mean, strategy, because what the fuck, man? Like, there's no common ground anymore. And the one place that I feel like was free of all that shit is off limits completely. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That was a tough one for us, honestly, besides like the being out of work for a year. And not being certain if we were going to have a business to come back to, or, just being told for the first time in my life, like, you can't do this.
Right.
Like, wait, what? I can't go to work? Like, damn.
It's such a crazy time, man. Like I remember I started doing receiving at the bar I was working at, Monty. So I worked Fridays and Saturdays. Then Friday during the day, I would go in early to receive. And I remember that March 12th to 13th when everything started closing and being there, and the streets in LA were empty.
And that was when they were doing the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right?
Yeah. Like when everything, like that following weekend, I think it was March 13th, was when everything is like, all right, you're shut down. Like that was my last night there. And yeah, I remember the truck drivers like talking to them. I'm like, yo, what's it like out there? And they're like, dude, it's empty. And they were telling me, they're like, we literally just dropped off shipments of wine at these venues, and they want us to go pick it back up because they're closing. And it feels like an eternity.
I mean, I think the final numbers on this thing in LA County alone, they said somewhere between 30 to 35% of bars did not reopen.
Yeah.
Because they weren't able to make it, over 12 months with their income and still paying the bills.
Yeah.
In our situation, it got crazy. I mean, it just keeps like splintering off into more crazy shit. You know what I mean? It's like, not only do you have to pay your lease and workers' comp, even though you don't have workers, and general liability, even though the liabilities are gone, the customers. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff just blew my mind. But there was no protocol for this. Workers' comp insurance is based off of payroll estimates. So basically, like, let's say your policy ends in December and you're renewing it in January. They tell you, how much payroll do you think you're going to use? Look at what you used last year and add a little bit, And that's what your policy costs for the year. And if you pay it all at once, you pay it all at once. Or you can divide it up into 12 payments, depending on who your carrier is, right? That's the way workers' comp insurance works, right? So we've already made estimates and started making payments. Then they close us. And I'm like, so what do we do? And they're like, you have to keep making those payments, because if you don't, your policy will be canceled. And if you're canceled, you cannot get a new one. There's only one place you can go with a canceled policy. You have to have current coverage to bind new coverage. You know what I mean? So if you lapse your policy, you only get to go to one carrier, and that's the state fund. And they're like, in most cases, they are the most expensive option. You know what I mean? So it doesn't leave you with a lot of choices. You know what I mean? A lot of people just bellied up because they were like, what the hell are we going to do? And then everything is speculative as far as when are we reopening? It's 2 weeks. Now it's a month. Now it's another month. Now it's another month. And everybody's just going, wait, what? There's no protocol for what the insurance company is supposed to do. So we literally had to pay insurance on our employees that we didn't have. We had to pay general liability on customers and liabilities that didn't exist. Not only that, but like the building insurance and fire and all the stuff to insure the stuff inside the room. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then they're like, well, don't worry. At the end of the year, when they audit your policy, you'll get money back. And I'm like, but we don't have money coming in and it's still going out. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was crazy, man. We came really close to the edge. And I'll say that was based off of decisions I made. We would have been fine if we just cut everything and just stopped paying. Like, okay, look, let's make a deal with the landlord to resume when we reopen. That would have been an option. Insurance was nothing we could do, but we decided to pay our employees through the shutdown. So we kept payroll going even though we were closed. And that was something that, like, it was a decision at home. Like, I went home and said, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, we have 9 people that work for us that I just don't know what they're going to do. Like, honestly, I know what I would have felt like if I was in their situation, and I'm not a rich man. I own this bar, you know? And it's like, okay, so let's just gamble on the fact that we don't think that this thing is going to go months. Mm-hmm. And so we just kept paying everybody every 2 weeks. And then finally we got to like October, the end of October. And I was like, look, everybody's going to have to file for unemployment because we're out of money. And literally we have to have something in the bank to come back to if we're coming back. We can't come back with nothing.
Right.
Because then there's nothing like, it's just that's the way it works. I don't have to explain it to you. But, you know, at that point it was kind of cool that we were able to ride it that long because then everybody was able to get unemployment. In the beginning, nobody could get it because like the phones were inundated. Yeah. You couldn't get on the website. The apps were all jammed. It was like no hope. You know what I mean? And most of the bars were like, screw it, we're closed. I know a lot of bar owners that started returning stuff. And for the first time in the history of the ABC, you were allowed to return liquor. Like that's never even been legal, like an option, you know? Crazy. And customers are like, I have 13 cases of like Buffalo Trace that needs to go back because I want the money, you know? And I'm like, I hear you, you know, I get it, but what are we going to do? You know? And me, I've always been a gambler and not like a sick gambler. Like I got to go to Vegas and try this, you know what I mean?
Chances.
But I love it. You know what I mean? I love the excitement of it. I've never like gambled beyond my means. I might have almost done it this time with the payroll situation because I got us really close to the edge. And then, Payroll Protection came into play. And we were the last people to get money for that because we're a bar. Right. And they were like, well, we got to take care of other industries. We were really fucked in this. I'm just going to say that. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing for us. Yeah. We were being told we couldn't even let 10 people in here because of the distance and the transmission risks. Yeah. All while like Costco and Target were at max capacity. You know what I mean? And we were just like, wait, what? Like, how does this make sense, you know? Mm-hmm. And like I said, we rode it to the edge. And then stuff started happening to where they were like, okay, look, you can come back, but it's going to be 25% capacity. It's going to be limited hours. Yeah. The customers can only be there for 90 minutes. Right. I mean, they set us up on an obstacle course. Yeah. You know, and I give all the credit to my staff because we really just like maneuvered that shit together. Yeah. None of us knew what to do. I mean, this is unprecedented stuff, you know, like I spent the first 19 years of my bartending career watching that door, making sure nobody ever left with a drink. It was a big deal. That's why I was trained. Like if somebody leaves with a drink, it was like you were afraid you were going to get busted. Yeah. I have no control over what that guy does, you know, like shit, I don't want him drinking and driving, but sometimes people just do stupid things, you know? But as a bartender who was trained by old bartenders, that was like the one thing I always watched. Hey, that drink has to stay in here. This ain't Vegas, buddy. Yeah. You don't go outside with your drink. And now COVID happens and we come back and they're like, put everybody outside. And we're like, wait, what? Like serving somebody a drink and watching them walk to the door goes against everything I have ever been taught. And I'm like, right. Okay, that's okay now. Okay. And now if they leave with it, it's different. It's their fault still, but like now it's different. You know what I mean? Like, really weird stuff, man. And we got super lucky in the sense that like when we were allowed to reopen, we were given 90-minute time limits per guest. So trying to do all that, you have to have extra staff to monitor the time. Yeah. You have to have extra staff to employ these strict COVID protocols, the health standards that they're imposing now, you know. So it requires more labor. But you make way less money because you're kicking everybody out after 90 minutes and you can only be open till 11. I think it was 10 p.m. we had to shut down. COVID's very specific about what hours it infects people apparently during that phase of this pandemic. You know what I mean? So I was like, and here's the other thing. Let me make very clear. I like to joke about it. You know what I mean? But I know it's not a joke because personally we've lost a lot of friends and some family to this thing. So we don't make light of it. We don't want to make it sound like it was a conspiracy to do this or that or control population or whatever. People have their own opinions. Believe me, I have heard many a theory on why people think this happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't like to make light of it. I mean, we made it through it, and I feel like as a group, we're a stronger team, and we really we're able to show each other what we could do, you know, under like weird circumstances and really navigate uncharted waters, you know. But at the same time, dear friends of ours died during this thing. So we were like, okay, so it's not like we want to be flagrant. We were never trying to like open the doors and pack the bar. We played by the rules and we did it the right way. And, we followed the guidelines and luckily for us, things happened. Like at the very end, we got a little bit of paycheck protection money. And that was literally just kind of paying us back for all the money we had already put out, because they took so long to get to us, and then finally I started seeing like a light at the end of the tunnel. And I thought, okay, I heard there's going to be a second round of that funding. And if you're a small business like me and you don't take more than like $150,000 in money, you may not have to pay it all back. And okay, mate, there's a hope for us. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, I had started doing a remodel project inside the bar. Like, I don't know, did you ever see the bar before?
Yeah, no, I noticed.
Before COVID, were you there? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's beautiful, by the way, man.
You can see the difference in what it was a 1953 bar to present day. You know what I mean? So the costs for doing that were pretty high, and another gamble because it's like, do we spend that money knowing that we're closed now and we can do it and we won't have to shut down in the future and lose business?
Right.
Or are we doing this to a building that nobody will ever see? Because that was a big concern at one point when they just kept pushing the possibility of reopening further and further back. We were like, is anybody ever going to see this bar? Yeah. Like, I don't live around here anymore. Like, I moved out of West Covina about 11 years ago. And I would come down here and just sit in there and just look around and think, what a fucking waste, Right. Just having like a moment by myself looking around and just going, man, it'd be an awful shame if nobody could ever come back in here and see this. Yeah. And it'd be a shame to see something that lasted through everything else life threw at it.
Yeah.
People, bad management, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like drunks. I mean, just there's a history, Yeah. And to see all that and people make it through that. And then for this to happen, it was just like, wow. So, after May 20th, they were like, okay, we're going to start easing up on you guys and we'll let you sell to go. We were able to sell to go, not cocktails, distilled spirits. So I almost turned it into a liquor store.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was like, okay, guys, I'm going to be there Monday and Wednesday this week. And I'll be there from like 10 to 2. And these are the bottles that we will be able to sell. And I would put together like a list. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we had so much stuff. I would be selling like E.H. Taylor's, single barrels all day. I mean, we did a Maker's Mark barrel pick that resulted in 42 six-packs, okay? And that happened right before COVID.
Right.
We managed to sell 21 of those six-packs.
Nice.
Like during the shutdown, basically, and a little bit before. Yeah. But I mean, that's monumental. Yeah. Because like, I know people who've bought these barrels before and they're like, they sit on them for a while unless they're the really sought after ones, like the Wellers and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But like, I was amazed that we sold that many. And I was like, okay, cool. This is helping us. Like, we sold enough like booze in 2 days of me being here and using no payroll to pay bills and keep the insurance current and all that kind of stuff. So there again was more light at the end of the tunnel, we got through that. Then after May 20th, that was when the 25% stuff started happening and they were like 90-minute increments and all that. And then it wasn't until June 15th where we really got the reins taken off. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, fine, you can have 100% of your capacity but they have to wear masks and you have to check vaccine status. Yeah. And if they're not vaccinated, they can't come in. And I'm just like, another hurdle. Okay. Yeah. But we're open. You know what I mean? And the most bitching thing about all of this was that when we reopened with those 90-minute increments, we had customers that came in, did their 90 minutes and went back outside and got in line and waited another hour to come back in and get like another 90-minute shot. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, this is like Disneyland. Yeah. Like they just got off, one ride and they're getting back in line for it right away. And it's an hour line, you know what I mean? And I thought, damn, that's amazing. It was literally choking me up. Yeah. I was like, and I looked at those people and I was like, I'll never fucking forget you guys, and they're regulars, to this day. And like people that I look at different after all this. Cause I'm like, you really showed me like what you guys are willing to do to help us, considering like most of us have been there to help you guys in one way or another. So it was nice because we don't expect we don't expect that. You know what I mean? We expect to be the ones there comforting people after a loss, or being there with them celebrating a birth of a child, or whatever it is, you know? And so to see those people kind of like coming in and doing stuff like that for us was like, oh, wow. Okay, we still got it. And the people are still who they are. And, you know, it was like a nice, no, I don't want to call it a welcome back, but like a nice glimpse at like what the potential could be still. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we weren't sure what we were coming back to.
And just the impact you have on the people here, you know, like that's big for.
It's been amazing, man. I'll tell you what. I got this place in 2014, so I'm coming on what 8 years, I guess, behind or being the owner of the place, and so much has changed. And I would say 98% of it is for the good. You know what I mean? Like I've created a few monsters just by wanting to do things my way, and you know it's hard being like a whiskey bar because of like just inventory in this place takes 4 hours a day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just reconciling everything, and there's 4 H statements of everything we carry, and like you know what I mean. I've made this job really hard for myself in that way, and I need help. Like I have a manager now doing a lot of this stuff for me because I'm like, I can't devote 4 hours a day to doing inventory. Who's going to do the next menu? Who's going to do social media content? Who's going to, you know what I mean? Like who's going to plan out what's going to happen next month or in the next quarter? You know what I mean? And I made it really hard for myself to make it what I want. You know what I mean? I feel like if I would have just left it what it was before, probably would have been almost as successful, but with way less work. You know what I mean? Like it was almost running itself at that point. You know what I'm saying? But then to want to come in and do like different kinds of drinks and stuff that this neighborhood doesn't really have, you know, really ups the prep work, the costs of everything. You know what I mean? Like I'm always torn with that, man. I look at my product and what I'm putting out and what it's actually what it costs me to make this. You know what I mean? And then what I'm going to sell it for. And those two things are often way close. Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about me. I'm not shrewd.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not one of those businessmen who is like, I can get $20 for that. Yeah. I'm like, damn, should we do that for $9? Right. You know what I mean? Because like people are going to love that.
That is something I want to, and that's like the perfect transition is, I mean, I wanted to ask you about, it's clear that you're passionate. I want to say specifically on whiskey spirits, you know, like the bar offers everything. There's a great selection of everything you would want, but primarily I think the big standout is just the massive whiskey selection. All your Fitzgeralds, your Taylors, your whole Weller line, Weller single picks from you. BTAC, you know, you're happy. Right. And I mean, where did that passion start for you? And like, you're the one who brought that to this place, right? Like that wasn't the thing before.
Oh, no. Like that was all. This was always just the strong bar. I mean, the strong drink place, you know? Yeah. When I started trying to push it that way was actually before I owned it. And I would tell the previous owners, we really got to get some bourbon in here, you know, like that's where it's at. And we're talking 2000 and I want to say 2008. Let's say between 2007 and 2010 was really when I was pushing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there was things that I really wanted to bring into this bar, but budget constraints and restrictions and lack of space and their unwillingness to just want to do it. Right, you know what I mean? Was like, no, we have whiskeys already. Yeah. And I'm like, but it's not the same now that I know what Scotch is and like Tennessee whiskey and bourbon. These are not the same things. Like I really fought to bring Maker's Mark into this bar. I was my biggest ask. Let's bring Maker's Mark in this bar. It's good. I tried it. One of my good buddies, this guy Nathan, who's a bartender in Covina, took me out one night and he was like, you got to try this. And at that point, who knows what I was drinking? I was probably drinking beer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've had my phases. Like every 4 years, I'm agave, and then I drink beer, and then I'm bourbon. You know what I mean? Bourbon's been like the longest run. Yeah. You know, but I've had my moments with everything. You know what I mean? And he was really the guy that turned me on to bourbon. And it was Maker's Mark he was drinking one night. I still remember where we were at. We were at the Burgundy Room in Hollywood. Yeah. And I remember like we would just go there and just go to random places and go to other bars and see what the hell was going on. And we walked into that dark ass bar, and he ordered a Maker's Mark on the rocks, and I was like, let me try it.
Yeah.
And I took a sip, and I was like, I still remember that taste, that first taste. And I went, okay. And he goes, that's the way I like it. And I went, all right. And I learned like within 1 week that I liked it the exact same way, but with like a half a splash of water on it. Nice, yeah. You know what I mean? And I didn't know why. I thought maybe it was too strong for me. At that point, I wasn't aware that like adding water to whiskey was really a thing that would open up flavors and aromas and all this different shit. You know what I mean? So I remember I even had a Sparklets at home. And I remember when I would have a drink at home, I would pour my Maker's Mark and be like, just to try to get that little tiny splash out of there, you know? And that kind of just became my drink, you know? And I thought, okay. And so I pleaded with the owners, let's bring up Maker's Mark in here. I think people will just die for this. It's great. You can drink it on its own. You can make drinks with it, like, you know? And they were like, nah, you know what? We have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15 bottles of Black Velvet still in stock. And we're not bringing in Maker's Mark until that's gone. And so I tasked myself with drinking the Black Velvet inventory out of the Cove so that we could get Maker's Mark brought in, you know, because the owners were not going to budge.
Right.
And they were they were nice people. I'm not going to make it sound like they were pricks, but they were like, don't ask again. It's over. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, fine. So I drank up all the Black Velvet. And the next thing you know, they were like, all right, fine, we'll bring in Maker's Mark. And the next thing you know, that thing came in, and it was a case a week. And they were blown away. They were just like, who's drinking this? And I'm like, everybody's drinking this. You have no idea. And little did they know at that time, like, the bartender has an influence on what people drink. Yeah. And we spent a lot of time drinking in this bar on our days off. And people would always ask us, well, what are you drinking? Oh, this is Maker's Mark, and I like it on the rocks with just a little bit of water. Yeah. And you could drink it with ginger ale or 7-Up or Coke or however, you know, but this is just the way I think it tastes the best. And next thing you know, like I said, we're doing 12 bottles a week from a bar that didn't even carry it before. Yeah. And we weren't known for whiskey. And people back then who drank whiskey, they drank like CC and 7 or VO and 7. A lot of call for like Kessler. You know what I mean? Like, because to them, that was smooth as silk. And if they were really into their shit, they were Crown Royal drinkers because that was like the higher end, you know? Damn. You know, I know I'm kind of like all over the place with this, but like one of the things that trips me out about the whiskey drinkers now versus then is that I get it, back then there weren't as many options, right? But you go back to like my grandparents' age, there was nothing better than Crown Royal. Right. They talked about that shit like if it was Cristal, you know what I mean? The bag, the this, the that. Whatever it was, the guy that owned this bar, that married couple that I bought the bar from, he used to tell me, you don't let these motherfuckers drink Crown Royal and Coke. If they ask for Coke, you give them Seagram 7 or something else and you tell them, we don't do that here. That's good whiskey right there. And he was an old man, you know? But he was feisty and he didn't want to hear that shit. Yeah. So he would tell me, don't let them drink that shit mixed. That's for sipping. And I'd be like, all right, whatever, Bill. I'm not telling them anything. They order it any way they want. I want to sell it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every time I serve it, it's $2. Yeah. A tip. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I care about here, Bill. But back then, like my grandparents' generation, they knew that one thing. That was, they could drink, what's the other one I said? Kessler. They could drink VO, CC, whatever. But Crown Royal was like the gem, you know?
Top dog.
And nobody really was on the hunt. You know what I mean? And nowadays you look at the whiskey connoisseur or not connoisseur, the whiskey consumer. You know, a lot of times they're coming in now and they're like, so what's new? What do you guys got that's new? And I'm like, well, what came out? So-and-so released a new toasted barrel finish, or this one did a high proof or a double oak or this or that. But there's no loyalty to the brands anymore. You know what I mean? Like everybody's always looking for that new hot thing. Right. You know, and I think a lot of that's influenced by the secondary market because they see what people are paying for it. Yeah. But like, whatever happened to just drinking what's good? Like, okay, you know you like Eagle Rare. Let's use that as an example, you know? Not saying you have to drink it every time, But you know what I mean? Like, there's no loyalty.
Yeah.
People are so just like, yeah, it's good, but what else do you got?
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, that's interesting to me that you're always on the look for something new versus there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 whiskeys on my back bar, right? I find myself ordering the same 4. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're like in my rotation.
Yeah.
Those are the good ones that I like. And I don't drink like allocated stuff. Certainly not like a high roller or a flosser.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
my go-to bottle is usually like Evan Williams single barrel vintage. I like it for the price. It's a weeder. I love it. I think it's great, you know. Weller Antique, of course, if you can get it, is a great one. But generally, I'm not pulling out like the big guns for stuff like, you know, I got my rotation that I go through, and I feel like that's the way I drink because those are the things that I think are good. And there's a rye I like, a bourbon I like, a high proof, and a small batch or whatever. It's kind of like one to fit any mood you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus like, I've never been one of those people that goes to a bar and is like, yeah, I've had that, so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like I've got my go-tos, but Cove is where I go when I do want to try
Step outside.
new stuff. Yeah. It's like, you know, and I can come here and be like, you know, I've never had Rock Hill Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it out. You know, great. You know, I've never had Elijah Craig toasted. Let's see what's up. You know, I kind of work my way through it here. But I know at least for me, it's like, yeah, I just want to try it all and see what's there.
Right.
I mean, I know it's funny you said Eagle Rare because that's one I do go back to. I'd suggest it to all my friends. Like I got my friends on the wild turkeys. Like, Russell's Reserve 6.
Don't sleep on
the rare
that.
breed. That's like
rare
breed is amazing.
Rare breed. Exactly.
You know, all that stuff.
That's one of the ones in my rotation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are like, why? I go, because it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. And you guys, you're over wild turkey because everybody just thinks of 101.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what about Russell's and what about the other stuff they're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's just so worried about what's new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like that secondary market has just so much to do with that. It drives those ridiculous prices.
Yeah.
It drives the people who collect versus drink.
Right.
You know? I mean, like, I don't know. I don't like to criticize anybody. Everybody does their own thing, their own way, you know? But like, even in cases with our single barrel, like we got that Weller Antique.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we sold a few of those bottles to go when we were closed and when we had permission from ABC to do off-premise sales. And most of those bottles went to people who were regulars because they were like, they knew it. They knew we had it. Can't get it anywhere else. They're like, let me come back and get a bottle. And we were very fair on the price when we sold those. Very fair when we sold those bottles. What really tripped me out is that like within weeks of some of those bottles being sold, I saw them on the secondary market for over double what I sold them for, you know?
Yeah.
So just to put it in like exact terms, I sold those bottles for $70 and it's a non-chill filtered OWA store pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what those go for now because I'm not involved in the secondary market. I think that shit is bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Back in the day, it was cool because you could get stuff sent to you that
Right.
wasn't generally available to you regionally or like, you know, Texas has it all the day long, but not California kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was still reasonably priced. And it was like people that had a lot of stuff that were just trying to get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It went from that to just like, how much can I get for this stuff? You know what I mean? And I took myself out of that just because I thought it's ridiculous. You know, you can just kind of get sucked into it. And then it makes it harder for you to drink those whiskeys because you paid so much for them. And that's really not the point of it at all. It's really meant to be enjoyed with your friends and family and people who are like-minded. You know what I mean? So I kind of got away from all that stuff. It's a trap. You know what I mean? It's like...
It really is. That's something I've been like, you know, kind of dealing with myself where I've gotten like pretty deep into it. And I fall into that exact trap of like, man, I'm going to spend a bunch of money on this because I might not see it again or whatever. And then like you said, then I get it and I almost don't even want to drink it. But then at the same time, it's like, well, I have rare breed rye right here. that's all I need. I've got, you know, and even, you know, I was going to say Eagle Rare, but even that is been crazy. Like I remember Eagle Rare not that long ago being $35.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and now it's $69,
If you can get
$79, if you can even get it. And and that just feeds into it more, where now it's like I see it and I'm like, fuck, I might have to pull the credit card out and get this right now.
By the way, my favorite thing that I'm seeing right now, and when I say favorite, I mean like the funniest thing, is when you go to a liquor store and see a package. So let's say you want Eagle Rare. They have it in like a basket, and you get a Southern Comfort, an Eagle Rare, and like a Fireball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just comedy to me, because it's like the liquor store's way of passing the responsibility to you. Because truth be told, those are the things that we have to sell to earn those items. You know what I mean? Like Sazerac as a company owns multiple labels.
Right.
Southern Comfort, Fireball, Wheatley Vodka, you know, Grand Gala. They make every different tier. Let's say they have stuff for like the well that's priced for that.
Yeah.
They have stuff at every price increment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how you earn allocated items from them is by how well you represent them during the year on their other stuff. You know what I mean? So they're like, oh, this is a top account that does so much of our vodka and our rum and our gin. When it comes time for allocation season, that's how you earn it. So as a bar owner, you know, you're tasked with coming up with like cocktail recipes to incorporate those other things into, so that you're not just stuck with them, because you want the other stuff, obviously. You know what I mean? So the liquor store just cuts out the middleman and puts them all together in a basket and says, this is how you get it. You want this, you have to buy this. And it's like, damn, that's exactly what they do to us.
Right. and so for you then, like how long did it really take you to kind of build those relationships to get like those certain connections, like the allocated stuff, or to even to get like your picks, you know, like you have your Antique 107 pick. Like I didn't even know anyone could do that, because Weller is like this big, so hard to get. Like when I saw it here, I think it was last week, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was the thing.
And you saw it while we're out, because we don't even really have it. We're so low on it. I mean, you can still order it at the bar. We don't sell bottles, but we're probably down to like 10 bottles. You know, and that was a whole barrel sold in weeks almost. You know what I mean? Whether or not we sold a few bottles to go, the majority of it has gone through the bar on the shelf. You know what I mean? Because we were very restrictive about what we let go. Because we knew we weren't going to get another one for a while. To get those kind of items is not easy. You know what I mean? And it's not just about like moving the products is one thing, but they want to see a lot of support. You know, these are businesses that are in it to make money, and they don't want to get cut short on certain things. So for example, when you're a company that owns, you know, 30 labels, there's always going to be that one that's your challenge. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's the one that not a lot of people want. So what are they going to do? They're going to weight that one so that people like me have to move that to get the gems. You know what I'm saying? So those relationships take years to develop. But the thing about them is that they're always evolving, because like when I started doing this, it was like a schedule. They would tell you every 7 cases of Buffalo Trace you buy, you get 1 bottle of Pappy. Very similar to that. You know, don't quote me on the exact case count, but like 12 years ago, it was very different. You know what I mean? And not everybody knew about it, and not a lot of people cared. There was a time where Van Winkle was sitting on the shelves because nobody knew what it was, and it was $39.99, $49.99. You know what I mean? So it takes years to develop the relationship with the supplier, because not only do you have to sell their stuff, but like nowadays it's very competitive. They want to see their products on menus. They want to see social media features. They want to see the cases moving. It's like if I order 5 cases of something, we're not done. That's 5. So how fast did you sell the 5? And when are you going to order the next 5? You know what I mean? So the program is very, I don't want to say speculative, but like, as let's say I'm the bar owner and you're the supplier, I'm showing you all year long how valuable an asset I am to your sales team, so that when you get the bottles, you can say, you know, the Cove really partnered with us this year, and they helped us on some key things that we were struggling with, whether that was Fireball or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's about the sales. It's about the support, broad spectrum across the portfolio. It's about social media features, and it's really about how you work with these people. I'm learning, you know, I've been fortunate because I came from a place of just, I'm a bartender and now I have a bar. I've never been one of those people that's always trying to cut someone down.
Right.
Cost per ounce less. You know what I mean? I want the best deal I can get, obviously, but I don't want to be hated either. And, there's a part of me that, when I work with these people, I want them to like me. I want them to remember me and go, hey, you know what? That guy was cool and he didn't piss me off and he wasn't a dick about it.
Yeah.
Like he didn't bug and, he did his part. Like I always tell these people, like, I won't ask you for anything I don't feel like I earned, in a lot of cases you don't get stuff unless you ask, but I'm not going to feel even comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, what's up with that OFC 1995? I didn't get it unless I know damn well I'm in the realm to even qualify for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
Because then you just look like a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what sets me aside from some of the other accounts, I feel like, is that I'm a nice guy about it, and rather than try to demand stuff or make negotiations like, well, if I don't get it, then I'm not going to do this. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of accounts do because they just get fed up because this shit is tough. This stuff is not easy.
Yeah.
You're fighting with people who are juiced in, who have been there longer than you, who may have a friend on the inside, who works with the distributor, who might be trying to steer bottles their way just cause. And then you have to worry about the corruption in this because let's be honest, like I buy it through a distributor. Those people know what the liquor stores are selling this stuff for. So, what's to stop that guy from saying, hey, my buddy owns Circle A liquor right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to see to it that he gets 3 more bottles, but he's going to have to break me off $1,000 because I know he's going to sell them for $1,000 each or, that this industry is not, that stuff can exist. And I'm not saying that it happens all the time with the Pappy and that's why it's so limited, but people have friends, people do favors. It's not always fair. Let's just say that, but you have to do everything you do up front. And then you wait till December comes for them to bestow these gifts upon you. So it's like, damn, I did more product than maybe this guy. And I feel like I'm only getting this.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And no matter what you get, you always feel that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was probably 2 years where we were allocated so heavy that it took all my might not to take a picture of all those bottles and be like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm like, look at this. Like, it was across this table in multiples. You know what I mean? I was just like, I've never seen anything like this. Like in my history of whiskey, I've never seen 5 of these and 6 of these and 10 of these in one shipment. You know what I mean? But I was like, you know what? I talked to my sales reps and they're like, nobody's beating you guys. You guys are outselling some of the biggest accounts we have. Yeah. And it's because you have your program dialed in. You're doing it on the cocktail menu. You're doing the numbers. You're representing our brands right. You're featuring us on social media. We see our names on a menu. We know you're committed to doing the work with us. You know what I mean? So no matter what, I always feel a little bit at the end of the year because I'm like, there should have been more.
Yeah.
But I know everybody feels like that.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is they don't make more. They only make the same amount of barrels every year. And that's to keep it rare. Yeah. Because if they made 500 extra barrels every year, then what would that do? It's like De Beers. If they were just to release all the stones that they had, diamond value they wouldn't be rare anymore now, would they?
Yeah.
If everybody could just have one, you know what I mean? So it's tricky, and every distiller is different in what they require you to do to garner those things. You know what I mean? Some places are just like, you know what? You guys have been a partner for 10 years. And even though you're not a high volume account and you've only done 6 cases of our product during the year, we're going to see to it that you get whatever our allocated item is.
Yeah.
And then luckily for me, there's some suppliers that are like, that bottle belongs here because you have everything else and we want to see our shit there. Mm-hmm. So some of those people I didn't have to work as hard for because they're like, we just want to be in the bar.
Yeah.
Because I want my bottle in the same shelf with all those other bottles. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, that makes me feel really good because I'm not used to that, man. We have to crawl, scratch, fight our way through everything we get. So to meet up with people like that actually want to do something for you, you're like, okay, sweet. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
But you have to maintain your integrity too because you can't just whore your menu out to whoever you think is going to give you stuff, because then you're neglecting everything else that's good to just focus on one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to navigate all this, because no matter what, you could put a 20 drink cocktail menu out and put a different whiskey on every one. You're not going to sell enough of each one to be on anybody's radar.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you can't use the same whiskey in every single cocktail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really tricky to kind of make everybody happy in this thing and still not break your bank on buying product that you're not selling. You know what I mean? Because that's, I think, another easy trap for people are like, well, fuck it, I'll just buy the 10 cases. And they know they're not going to sell them. But they know that the distillery sees that and they're like, all right, cool, we'll get you your birthday bourbon now.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is. I'm using them as an example, but like, you know, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
To get to the point where you get barrels and stuff like that, it's just, again, the stars have to line up. The time has to be right. The moon has to be in the right phase. I mean, like, all that stuff has to happen. You have to be supporting all the way across. You know, you have to meet a lot of requirements to get that. And so to get that is a big deal. You know, when you see stores and bars that have that, that is no easy feat. You know, it's like a lot of money had to be spent first and foremost, but then just commitment to the program. You know what I mean? And not just, oh, I was really good with you 1 year. You remember.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't remember is the thing. You're as good as your last bag. You know what I mean? Like, what did you turn in? And that's kind of how it works. You know what I mean? With Weller, that program, you have to get invited into that one. Right. You if something opens up or somebody falls out of the program or somebody dies or something, you know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of how you get in. Yeah. And for us, they told us basically, once you're in, as long as you don't shit the bed. You know what I mean? As long as you do what you do and you're supporting and you don't go south on us, like, you should be fine to continue to hold your place in the program, you know? Yeah. And for me, I was just like, okay, fine. You know, that's reassuring, because I didn't think I was going to get it. You know what I mean? And then once I did, I was locked, you know, and I thought, okay, here, we're going to do this every year. That barrel pick was our second barrel as a bar that we'd ever chosen. And it was a unanimous pick that we did blind. So like literally every single staff got to try it without seeing what the barrel or what the location was or any identifying information. Because that's usually the sample bottles just come with like handwritten labels that tell you like what row, what warehouse, when it was dumped. With Weller, it's all the same proof. So it wasn't like there was different proofs. Yeah. But 3 different barrels, 3 distinctly different whiskeys. You know what I mean? Like, wow. We all focused in on sample number 2, and then I'd wait till Marcus is working, and then I'd bring him over here and be like, try these 3. What do you think? Without any hesitation, he's like, it's number 2. Damaris, come over here and try this. What do you think? Oh, it's number 2 all day. Yeah. One of my friends, try this. Mm-hmm. They're all good. And I go, well, which one's the best? And he's like, number 2. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I think out of the probably 8 people that we actually tasted on that sample, because we had a decent sample size, everybody chose sample number 2, except for I think one person. Yeah. So I want to call that unanimous. You know what I mean? But I'm like, this is a unanimous pick. Yeah. And the only thing changed from the sample to the bottling was we didn't filter it. So when they said this is what it's going to be, we just said, can we get it non-chill filtered? They said, absolutely, no problem. So I knew that there might be a chance that the sample wasn't going to be 100% true to the bottled product, but I was gambling that it was going to be better by not filtering it. You know what I mean? So when that came in, I have a lot of pride in that one just because it's one of the first ones we've done. And also it's one of the most well received. Like I've heard people talk about that barrel who don't know me. Yeah. Like as I'm just sitting in the bar drinking a water. Yeah. And like I've heard guys say like, this is one of the best picks I've ever had. And they always compare it to one other place. And that makes me feel good because that place I think always has the best picks. You know what I mean? So they're like, have you tried K&L's last one? And I go, of course I have. Yeah. Like this is like very similar to like theirs. Or I even like this one better than their last one. And I'm just like, phew. I hear that in the background and I'm like, damn, okay, shit, we did something right there, you know? Yeah. Right after that, there was COVID. So there was nothing happening. Distillery shut down. Yeah. Barrel programs all suspended except for off-premise accounts. So if you own a liquor store or like a Bevmo or a Total Wine, you're in business during COVID. And the sad truth is that they got the lion's share of the allocated items for this last year. Yeah. And it looks like some of that practice may continue going forward, just because I don't know why. There must be an advantage to letting them have those bottles. They must be selling more on the other portfolio or on the other SKUs. I don't know. Yeah. But like I'm fine. I mean, I feel like it should be fair. If you sell the most, you should get the most. You know what I mean?
Right.
My hang up with it is they're so damn greedy. You know what I mean? Like me being an owner that actually sees what the cost of the bottles are, we pride ourselves on the pricing in our bar. You know what I mean? Because like I always tell people, like I price the whiskey based off what we pay for it and what it should be. Mm-hmm. I don't look at the outlying factors like, oh gosh, some guy one time paid $900 for this, so that should be a $45 pour. You know what I mean? Like that goes against all of it, you know? And I know there's a lot of places that do that. And some places don't have a choice. They have sky high leases and expenses that I know nothing about. You know what I mean? So, hey, that's your program, run with it. Yeah. But the thing that always kind of set us aside from those places is having that selection and being able to offer it, you know, at a price that ain't going to kill you. Yeah. You could at least come in and try maybe 2 or 3 different things versus like, hey, I'm only going to be able to go in there and have one.
Yeah. And it's great because that just contributes to the whole, the greater experience of coming to a bar and having drinks with your friends and trying stuff and like enjoying it and not worrying about the financial part of it. It's like you just want to try some good spirits, you know, whatever it may be, whiskey, rum, vodka.
I've really tried to get some stuff in here that would make your jaw drop. You know what I mean? Like there's programs out there. I don't know if have you ever heard of The Last Drop?
No.
Okay, The Last Drop is this really super exclusive thing where they take like the very last of very, very old barrels, and sometimes they only come up with like 4 bottles or 8 bottles because of how much evaporated out of the barrel. And it's like they had a Buffalo Trace in the warehouse from 1980 that they bottled up, and it made some ridiculously low amount of bottles, but those things were so expensive and sought after because it was a 20-year-old Buffalo Trace, you know, and everybody was thinking this is going to be too far off from Pappy probably, even though it's not the exact same mash bill. Yeah. Similar storage, but 20 years in the barrel, you know, and I'm like, as an owner, those bottles are going to cost me thousands of dollars. Right. You know what I mean? Like one that was offered to me, it wasn't a Buffalo Trace, but it was like, oh gosh, I can't remember. It was like a 50-year-old Scotch. You know what I mean? Something like that. And my cost on it was going to be like $4,000. And it was a 750 milliliter bottle that they only had like 2 of. Right. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, see, I want something like that in here. Not that I feel like it's going to sell, but just it's almost like having a library and having those really old first editions. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, you know. Those are hard to get, you know, and there's been times where like I've just said, you know what, don't do that. Don't do that. That's too much money for something that's for you. You know what I mean? That's not for the customers. So just calm your ass down and like get off that. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I for me, I've never been one of those guys that takes them home either. My collection at home is I won't lie. Like there's been stuff that I've been piecing together for over 10 years that, you know, that I'm saving for something. Yeah. Like I have a really pretty extensive Taylor collection, you know, and I'm hesitant to open some of those bottles, you know, and it kind of goes against even what I say. Yeah. But to be honest with you, like after seeing what some people got for those bottles during COVID, there was a time where I even considered selling them because bottles that I paid like $750 for were now selling for in the thousands. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, I have a set very similar to one guy who just sold his for $57,000. And I thought, that's a car. Yeah. Like a nice car. Yeah. You know, and those are bottles. I mean, I like whiskey, but shit, I love cars. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And we're talking like all sealed still.
Like
not even had
Are you familiar with the Taylor line? Yeah, so they have like old ones that are not available anymore, like Warehouse C, right? Okay. Which is a tornado survivor Warehouse C, not the new one that just came out. Warehouse C, the original one, was a warehouse that was ripped apart by a tornado, and the surviving barrels that didn't get crushed or you know, adulterated in any way were bottled with that label. That bottle let me think, when was it offered to me? Let's say 2015. A bottle was offered to me at $1,200, and I slept on it. And you cannot get that bottle for less than $5,000 today.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, stupid. Yeah. But, that's like the one that I don't have in the collection.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I'm not paying $4,000 for it now, or $5,000 or whatever the ask is. Yeah. They're out there. Yeah. But they're coming from the people who sat on them for all these years. Yeah. Who didn't drink them. And I'm like, man. Yeah. That's that thing I hate,
It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, I think, before recording, how I mentioned I almost had a chance at maybe getting a Coy Hill, Jack Daniels for like $280 or whatever, and then I didn't do it because it's like I don't need this right now. I want it, I don't need it right now. And then a few months later, I hear it's $900, $1,000, whatever, and then it puts me in that mode of like, man, now if I get one like the single barrel proof rye I found, I almost don't even want to break the seal because it's like, well, maybe. In a few years, this might pay my rent if something goes wrong. You know what I mean?
I think of it that way too, but I also think about it as they're not going to make this again probably. Yeah. So shit, I don't want to open it because then I feel like the clock is ticking. Yeah. And we got to keep hitting it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So one cool thing about that though, I will say, is I'm happy that it's a Jack Daniels product. Mm-hmm. I am. It's humbling. You know what I mean? Yeah. Jack is a great product, man. They've been doing it for so long. They're one of the first people to really do that Lincoln County process where they did the sugar maple char and all that stuff, and people looked past them because they were like, well, what's out? What else is out there? What's new? It wasn't that Jack got bad. It was just like, well, now I want to know about other stuff. You know what I mean? And to see them go like full circle and come back with a limited release item that sold for that much money, I'm like, good for you guys. Yeah. And screw all those people that turn their nose at Jack because they want William LaRue Weller or only that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when it happened with Jack, I was like, good for them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, their single barrel line is really good. Mm-hmm. But man, shall we've been at it for a while. Maybe we start to wrap it up. Shall we hopefully do a little taste if you're down of the
it's your choice. Like I said, I have those antiques there. I have Coy Hill.
Can we do Can we do an antique and a Coy Hill?
Absolutely.
Since we talked about those two?
For sure. Yeah, I'm kind of I work out of this space all week long. Just the space over there is very limited. Yeah. And it's hard to get anything done because I'll talk all day. Right. You know what I mean? Once people get me going and they want to talk about this kind of stuff, I'm like, I'm there for it, Yeah. So this is kind of like my get yourself to work, Greg. Go over there and get stuff done.
And so this is the Weller 107. This is the
antique 107. Non-chill filtered barrel pick from us. I haven't had this in a long time. And then like I said, I'm reserving everything I have for the bar. Yeah. Because I want everybody who wants to try this to get the chance to try it. Like, I don't have one bottle of this at home. And I know that's crazy, but that's my bad. Had I realized what I had earlier, I would have stopped selling it and reserved some bottles and been like, you know what? We're time capsuling this, Right. That's really good. I love this one.
And so, because I know you mentioned that Maker, man, I'm like not warmed up right now. I know you mentioned earlier that Maker's Mark was kind of the first whiskey you really realized you liked and everything. And with your Weller 107, are you more primarily like for you? Do you prefer like the wheaters?
I do.
That's your
I do
main?
All day. Nice. Yeah. Even that guy spoke about Evan Williams single barrel vintage. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Wheat recipe.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay. Mm-hmm. I haven't tried that one yet.
Here's the other funny thing. So this was our second barrel. The first one was the Makers. They produce that at cast strength, and then you add oak staves to it. Right. Finish it for 90 days. Yeah. That bottled at 107. We did this barrel, 107. The barrel after this was Old Forester barrel strength, 129.1. And then just a few weeks ago, I did another barrel pick for Whistle Pig, 10-year, and I did it completely blind with 4, maybe 5 staff members. Okay. With the supplier here in this room, and she had all the bottles here
Yeah.
with their backs facing us, so we couldn't see what they were. Another nearly unanimous pick. After we'd all basically said, locked in our answer, this is what we like, she flips it around and it's a 107. I go, so okay, here's where we're at. 107 to 110 is our sweet spot. And without even looking at those bottles, knowing the proof, warehouse location, or anything, we're calling those out of the line. You know what I mean? And so the Whistle Pig barrel that will be coming in, I hope, by May, will be our third barrel at 107 proof.
Nice. Damn. And then you have the Old Forester you mentioned.
129.1, and I hope that to be available within the next 30 days.
Man, I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, and at the end of this month, we have another Weller barrel coming in, and that's full proof.
Oh, word.
So we did the 114 this year instead of the antique. I'm not sure how that'll go because my my offer to the team at Sazerac was I'd buy both. Antique and a full proof, and they were like, of course you will.
Yeah.
Everyone will. I said, well, if I have to choose one, I'll do a full proof this year, even though Weller Antique has been my favorite bourbon for every bit of 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even before we got our own. Like, I was buying this from a guy in Texas who owned a liquor store who couldn't sell it. So he was shipping me 750s, which is completely illegal, by the way, for like $60, including shipping. So I'm buying 8 at a time and stock my shelves at home.
Yeah.
And we never even mentioned it here because I was like, why even introduce something that we can't sustain? And first of all, you can't supply booze from secondary markets to the bar. You know what I mean? But I'm like, that's my shit. And then all of a sudden they opened it up to me, and then they opened up a barrel, and I was like, oh, hey, this is going to be a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
Lots of good notes on this one for me. Right up front is the caramel. Yeah. And it doesn't take long to get that. And on a lot of bourbons, you get that on the back end, whereas you get the baking spices and some of the other notes first. Like, to me, this hits caramel right up front.
Now, this one's a good one. It's like, it's a perfect, just perfectly sweet, perfectly
balanced
heated.
Very well.
Yeah, very well balanced. That's the way to put it.
And if you sit it there for 5 minutes and just let it breathe and come back to it, it just gets better and better, you know? If you look at the glass after you drink out of it, the legs on it are crazy. It's the viscosity. It's very oily. And that's another benefit of not chill filtering, I think, is keeping all that amino and all the stuff that comes from the oak intact, you know? Because when they chill filter stuff, they generally get it really cold and then run it through either carbon, diatomaceous earth in some cases. Some people use paper, like like coffee filter material almost, and run it through that to get essentially, it's for the presentation. When they filter like that, it's because they don't want a cloudy bottle of whiskey on the shelf. You know what I mean? So when they filter it like that, you're looking at something that's really amber, really clear, no cloud. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen like I use this one as an example, but Widow Jane makes an unfiltered. It's sourced from Indiana. It's like an MGP product, but they make this 10-year unfiltered bourbon, and it has the most sediment I've ever seen out of any of the unfiltered stuff at the bottom of their bottle. So I always use it as a selling point to introduce people to new stuff. And I would take my flashlight from my phone and set it under the bottle and just go. Yeah. And then you just see this, it looked like smoke whip up from the bottom. And I said, that's everything that normally a distiller would filter out because they don't want you to see that. Like as a consumer, you see that on the shelf at the store, you go, what the hell's that? They didn't filter it. There's like pieces of wood in there. And that's a lot of flavor, it turns out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I never noticed that.
Yeah. That was my biggest push for doing this barrel that way because I thought it's already a great sample, but it could be better by just leaving it in its natural form. You know what I mean? It turned out to be really good.
I've found that I'm not particularly a fan of wheaters, but the 107 always sticks out to me the most, like positively. Like this is one I feel I would love to pick up, even just like the regular antique 107, but it's just, you know, like we talked about, some of the prices are a little too crazy.
Astronomical.
Yeah, it's like I I don't quite need this, when I've got.
They're pushing daily drinkers into the special occasion category left and right. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
These are meant to be sipped on and enjoyed, and now you're making them so expensive that people only want to bring them out like when they have a kid or promotion at work, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're using them as like the milestones, and I'm like,
yeah,
these should be $40. Like, what happened?
That's how I feel about like Michter's Toasted, the bourbon and the rye. It's like there's another one that when I first tried it in 2016, 2017, I remember seeing it at a store for like $80, and I was like, all right, I'll get this someday. And I didn't know anything at the time about. I was like so new into trying whiskeys and everything at that time. Like I didn't know that prices would change. I thought it would just it's like any other whiskey. This is what the price is, and it's going to stay there.
Right.
And then now it's like $200 to the $300. Like
we just poured the last of a 20-year Michter's that we had over there for about 2 months, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was one of our pricier pours.
Yeah.
And I think we did that at 180, but everything's 2 ounces. So, I mean, it's fair for what it is.
Definitely.
And it was right in line with what we paid for it, but I didn't expect it to go that fast at that price. I thought we'd probably see 6 months.
Yeah.
We saw 2. I just went, man, I grossly underestimated what the demand for that would be,
Yeah.
And then there I am going back to the supplier like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
it's me again.
And when you get those products, I imagine you try them all, right? Like you're sampling these.
So
things,
I didn't try that Michter's 20 until there was not enough to do a final pour on it.
Oh, gotcha.
So there was like 3/4 of an ounce left in the bottle.
Yeah.
And I pulled it.
Okay.
And that's how I tried it. And it was literally less than 2 sips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could tell you from those 2 sips that it was absolutely one of the best, just approachable, delicious, right up front to the tip of your tongue all the way back was pleasure. You know what I mean? But I thought it's hell too, because I just need a little bit more to be sure. And there's no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that one bottle we got would be the one we're going to get for the whole year.
Yeah.
20-year Michter's is not easy to come by.
Right.
We get more 23-year Pappy than we get 20-year Michter's, to put that in perspective. And they're all from different distributors too, so that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Because one distributor, like the Pappy distributor, I do tons of business with them on multiple different products. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then I got to go to another distributor who does Michter's, and that's literally one of the only things they sell that we use, because they're a wine distributor for the most part.
Right.
So we don't have clout with them. I try to do everything I can, the rep for that company comes in with stuff. He's a really good guy. He doesn't come in here and try to like throw shit at me that's going to disappear on the back bar and just drowned in the 400 whiskeys. He's like, okay, you have everything, but what don't you have? And he's kind of like scanning, and he came back to me like 2 weeks later and was like, I have a French single malt I want you to try. Like, French single malt? I don't think I've ever had one of those. And then it turns out I had, but the one that I had was terrible. And I tried this stuff, and I'm like, this is absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that. And he goes, boom, that's a score for me, and it's a win. So now I've got something of mine on the back bar, something that you didn't already have, something that I think is good, and I've already worked it into a cocktail.
Nice.
It's going to come out on our new menu that's hopefully going to be out in like the next week or two. If I can just stop changing things. Right. You know what I mean? Like up until the minute you got here, I'm sitting there on my computer like rearranging the wording.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I'm afraid of is like, I'm not a gin guy, right? Like I can't go to a bar and just drink gin. But I'm not afraid to drink a gin cocktail. Like if something's on the menu and I go, wow, that sounds good, I'm going to order it, right? But I'm not the average consumer. I'm a bartender, and I know a little bit more than like just the person that's coming in off the street that wants a cocktail,
Yeah.
So I've tried to like change up the way I do my menu, instead of just putting like, let me give you an example. Instead of like, say you're going to do a bee's knees cocktail, right? It's gin, honey, and lemon. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying like forged gin, lemon juice, honey syrup. Well, the first thing you see is forged gin. And if you're not a gin person, that's probably going to be a turnoff.
Right.
So I started like flipping stuff around now, where like the first thing you see now is honey syrup, lemon juice, forged gin. So I feel like I'm giving you a better description of what it's going to taste like without writing, this cocktail tastes like, this, that, or the other. Because I hate write-ups like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like spoon feeding somebody what they should taste. You know what I mean? And I hate that. And I hate writing that copy. Yeah. It's not me. You know what I mean? So this time around, I'm just listing ingredients, but I'm trying to do it in a way that it's going to kind of guide you and tell you what this is going to taste like without just seeing gin. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's, I think, what a lot of people see when they see that first. Like, oh, it's gin. Yeah. Fuck that.
Oh, this is a whiskey one. I don't drink. And this is a tequila. Oh, I can't do that makes sense. And that's such a simple way to kind of change it up. Because who doesn't like honey, man? That's
and it's hard for me too, because there's a lot of drinks on these menus that I don't like. You know, because that's not my thing. Yeah. You know, like for me personally, I don't like mint. Like fresh mint in cocktails, for some reason, I don't like it. So like whiskey smash, for example, that's a classic cocktail. Like almost everybody loves that drink. It's lemon juice, simple syrup, mint, and whiskey. Yeah. You know, but it's like a julep to me. I don't like the mint flavor, you know? So I can't fuck with those, you know? And I see the way they look and I see how many times people order them and I'm like, awesome. Yeah. I like that it's represented here. Yeah. I would never drink that, you know? Yeah. Mojitos or anything that's like mint heavy like that, it's just not for me. Yeah. Can't get down like that.
I'm someone who needs to try more cocktails and all that. Like I tend to just stick to, like Sazerac's my favorite. Like Sazerac's, old fashioned, you know, stuff like that. But I'm trying to like venture outside the zone. More. Yeah. And especially like it's always interesting when you see a cocktail menu that and I read the ingredients and it's like, man, clearly someone put a lot of work into this. Like when I was bartending, we did all the classic cocktails and they would do a few featured ones that like, you know, a manager would come up with, but never anything like too crazy, too fancy. So I never learned, like I never got deep into the mixology, I guess.
Right.
And it's an interesting craft, man. Like when I read some of the menus and hear about people putting them together, it's like, oh, well, this specific bourbon might go great with this specific liqueur and this juice. It's pretty amazing to me, just all that knowledge and all the different things you'd have to try independently to even know that it might fit together. Work together, yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's one of the fun parts of this, but it's where the pressure comes in too. Right. Because I watch my bartenders when it comes around to be like new menu time and everybody's throwing their hat in the ring and everybody's throwing, it's like throwing shit at the wall and waiting for something to stick, you know? It's like bam, bam, bam. And then there's times where you taste stuff and you're like, we're almost there. And then we start doing like classic bartender shit like, okay, this is good, but it's not quite there. Split the base. Split the base. Have you heard that before? Split the base. Like take the base and split it with vodka or gin or something else and or modifier, you know what I mean? Just to try to change it. And you start like branching off and sometimes you go too far and you just have to stop and go back to the beginning and simplify or whatever, you know what I mean? But that's one of the funnest parts. Like when I watch the bartenders working like that and I watch their mouths, dude, like they take the watch them work it like they're giving it that chew, you know what I mean? Like, okay, no, it needs more of this or that. And then, you know, as you go, you start learning what plays off of what.
Right.
You know, citrus off bitter or sweet off sour or you know what I mean? Like it gets easier. But everything's always changing, like with cocktails. You know, you go through these phases with people where they want like super sugary sweet stuff. And that's my pet peeve. My pet peeve in bartending, I'll be honest with you, is when people want something that tastes like something else. Make me the Cinnamon Toast Crunch shot. It tastes exactly like Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal. I'm like, yum. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or have you ever tried the chocolate cake shot? It tastes just like a chocolate cake. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things. Like the schnozberries taste like schnozberries, you know? And I'm like, okay, why don't we just make stuff that tastes good? Yeah. It doesn't have to taste like other stuff. Right. There was a time where like, when I bought the bar, especially, flavored vodka inundated the back bar. Every flavor you could imagine. And the worst one was, back in the day, they had a Fruit Loop flavored one. It was called Loopy.
Really?
And I'm like, wow. I'm sorry. This is fucking marketing to kids.
Yeah.
We're adults here. Like, grow up and drink a drink, man.
Yeah.
Drink a drink. Like, if you have to have something that tastes like Fruit Loops, I feel like we're going after the wrong market here.
Yeah.
Liquor companies. Like, get your shit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dealing with stuff like that is treacherous, man. Trying to make drinks out of stuff like that, and like every now and then somebody likes it and you just cringe.
Yeah.
Like, now they're ordering it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, why would you do that?
It's like, just buy a box of cereal, man. Just
Yeah.
you know,
It
why are you
tastes
doing
like
that
this.
here? Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day. I go, let's just come up with shots that taste good.
Yeah.
Base them off cocktails, simplify it, shorter pours, whatever. 2-ounce shots versus 6-ounce cocktails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's people that just do that. Like, you know what I love? A lemon drop. Lemon drops are my favorite. But you know what? Can I have it as a shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. You could have a lemon drop shot. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good. It works. It's what you like, you know? But the shot that tastes like something, or the drink that tastes like something, right now, that just fucking burns me.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
No, I feel that.
It sucks that you want to do that, but all right.
Well, and it's funny too, because you know, someone who's like passionate about the spirits and about the cocktail, it's like you want to get them to experience that and try that and share that
And
with
you don't
them.
want to be a snob either.
Yeah, but you don't want to be snobby. You don't want to push it too much. But
Loopy. I'll never forget Loopy, man.
I that's crazy.
Whoever they
I've
are,
never
I'm
heard of
sorry I'm
that.
talking shit about you on a podcast, but it's over.
Yeah.
Flavored vodka revolution is over.
Oh,
We got here in 2014 and bought this place and was like, okay, we have 19 flavored vodkas. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Literally, you know? We try to find ways to like burn them out with shots and like cocktail lounge mixology. You know what I mean? Like, add some cranberry juice and some sour and see how it goes, and you know, just get it out of here. And then once it was gone, it was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We can really work with some good products. It's not just have to be whiskey.
Right.
You know what I mean? There are better products out there from different suppliers. You don't have to worry about like always it's the same or whatever. You know what I mean? Just there's different tiers to every product. You know, they have the $6 version of it and the $16 version of it. Sometimes you just got to be willing to spend a little more.
Yeah.
You want to go for another one?
Yeah. Coy Hill. Yeah.
I tried it after a shift one night. So I probably had like 3/4 of an ounce because I was like, damn, I've been working like 10 hours. I'm already tired. I've been here for so long. The last thing I want to do is start drinking like super high proof, you know. I'm going to go back with my tried and true Fernet. Can't go wrong with that. Little bitter.
Fernet's hard for me, but it's funny because it seems like it's like such an industry pour.
It is.
You know, and that would be the thing. It's all right. Tonight we're doing the Fernet, and I'm like, all right, here we go. It never quite grew on me.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's very unique in flavor. I always say it's the one and only because there's a lot of Fernets out there. But Fernet Branca is the one and only in my opinion. There's a lot of other ones, but this is the best.
Yeah.
For me, it's just about the camaraderie between like your staff and like I don't know. There's just always been something about it. The same person who introduced me to bourbon introduced me to Fernet. All right. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to that guy. As a matter of fact, he's a really good friend of mine.
Oh, that's what's up.
He's a bartender in Covina at the Rendezvous.
Oh, I haven't been in there yet. I live like pretty close to there. I always
watch yourself.
Dude, I'm
now
so sorry.
watch. Anyways, yeah, this guy is the one who kind of introduced me to that, put me on to like bitter stuff, and all these years later, we ended up being like one of the number one accounts for some of those things. And even the suppliers asked me, like, one time we had a Fernet thing here at the bar where like the supplier came in and was like, we're recognizing you for top sales. Everything was closed for some reason. You guys had some of the top sales in Fernet. And the reason why was because we were all drinking like fish, like the bartenders. I racked up a tab in the thousands during COVID on just Fernet because I was taking home cases of Fernet.
Okay, yeah.
And drinking it at home, you know what I mean? And now it's become like very ceremonial. Like, you know, we drink it when we celebrate. We drink it when we're grieving. We drink it when something happened. It's just one of those things that we incorporate into everything. And during COVID, just the sheer numbers that the staff was putting away and what I was selling off premise put us at like one of the number one accounts for Fernet during 2019 or 2020. And they recognized us with this really bitchin' coin. It's a 175th anniversary Fernet coin. Have you seen a Fernet coin before?
I haven't.
Okay,
No.
it's like this. Are you familiar with like World War II challenge coins?
Yeah, yeah.
Very much modeled around that. So the Fernet people came up with this coin concept where there would be like strict rules about it. Like if you're with somebody and somebody challenges you and you don't have, you're both, like say both of us have a coin and we're out at a bar and I throw my coin on the bar and you don't have yours, you're paying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you are at the bar and your friend wants to see your coin and you hand it straight to him in his hand, he has the opportunity to keep that because you didn't set it on the bar and let him pick it up. There's just, you should always have it on you. You shouldn't have to travel more than 5 steps to produce it. You know, there's just like rules about it, but it's a really good marketing thing. And also built brand loyalty like you wouldn't believe. And Fernet coins are some of the hardest things to acquire in the service industry because people who have been drinking it and supporting it for years have never even seen one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was fortunate enough to be in a position where we sold a lot of Fernet. And my staff was graced with coins, and so was I, and we got different ones and this and that. But the 175th one was like a big deal for me because I'd never seen it before. It was a new thing, and only certain people were even being offered these things. So like for the whole staff, we got a coin. It wasn't like we all got one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like, damn, this is something serious. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, it just builds to the brand loyalty. Like, we're in this bar like Fernet to death, dude. I mean, you'll probably see the other bartenders the same way. That's what the coins look like. Everyone is different.
Heavy duty.
On the back, this is a Washington one. They have SoCal, they have Tennessee, they have Georgia, all over the place. You know what I mean? But every single one's different, and every year they produce a different one. They're really hard to get, man. Like, I've seen people sell these on eBay for like $500. Yeah. Because they know somebody out there will pay it.
Right.
Because they're never going to get one on their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fernet is just one of those things that I just can't get over. Ever since we got started on it, it's been... When I got married, Fernet was like in the wedding, literally. Like it was in the background of the shots in my wedding video. Like it was just tied in completely. It's something like when I get home from work every day, there's one sitting there waiting. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I get home and how was your day? Good. Now we got this out of the way. I don't drink it heavy, but I drink literally one shot of this, at least one shot every single day.
Damn.
It's like, it's like my coffee. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for the end of the day, cheers, man.
Cheers.
My favorite Italian import, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Fernet. It's been a while since I've had some. I'll have to try it again, but
it's very dry and very bitter.
Yeah.
You know?
And I like you mentioned, it reminds you of the camaraderie of and that's what I associate with it. I know for when I was working in the bar too, every once in a while it would also be chartreuse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be the other one. It's like, no Fernet today. One? Yeah, we're doing this chartreuse. 110. And same, I'm just oh man, not quite for me. I'm always down to do it with the team.
Because that's what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
But man, we'll start wrapping it up. I just wanted to say a little anecdote here. And Jack Daniels Single Barrel Coy Hill, great. I feel like I always get banana on the nose with Jack Daniels, and the Coy Hill is like banana bread. Like it's been baked. It's been through the shit. And
something in that yeast strain, I think.
Yeah. And even despite the proof, man, it's like...
It's very warm and inviting.
Yeah, inviting, yes. It's not like burn your throat out, burn you down, like crush the palate.
It's approachable, right? When you taste it for the first time.
Yeah.
And then, again, anytime you have a whiskey open for a few minutes, let a little bit of that alcohol evaporate and deal with what you got left in the glass. It just gets better and better.
Yeah. It's an amazing pour. And if anyone hasn't had it, like... come through here and
try and get it.
Try it, yeah. Yeah, try and get it.
We're almost at the halfway point. Yeah. We'll see what happens. These ones go quick.
But yeah, before was it September 23rd, 21, right here. Before wrapping up, I just wanted to say, man, I remember when I first was getting into whiskey and everything in like 2016 after I started bartending, and I remember coming to this place and I was so shocked because I thought, oh, it's another little dive bar right here, and I saw the massive selection. And I remember you specifically were bartending. It was like in the middle of the day, like a random weekday. And I remember telling you, like, yeah, I started getting into this, and I realized that I like rye. Like, I tried a lot of whiskeys, and rye is kind of my jam. And I remember you turning me on to a Wild Turkey 101. And I remember it so clearly, man. And you turned me on to the Wild Turkey 101 and kind of went from there. I've been a Wild Turkey fan ever since, among other things. And it's just been super cool to make this kind of a spot where I bring friends here and we come and we try all these different spirits as we've evolved and gotten into it. And it means a lot that it's crazy to be sitting here with you now years later, and I'm sure you don't remember me from like a random guy from back then. But it's impactful. And I think it ties in with everything you were talking about, the bar, like the passion, the people, the environment, the staff is super friendly and knowledgeable. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you, putting in the time to sit here with me and share the history and some of the trials and tribulations and the stuff you've had to go through with COVID, and, sharing, your picks with me and your special bottles. It means a lot. And, thanks for being here.
My
and
pleasure,
about
man.
it, man.
I love sharing the stories because
yeah.
I feel like if I don't keep telling these stories, they're going to just die with me. You know what I mean? I'm like the only link to all these old people that used to like inhabit this place and stuff. So it's my pleasure, man. And I appreciate, of course, the interest in my place and, any kind words, of course. I'm extremely flattered because I'm just the bartender, man, that got my shot, and I'm doing the best I can with it. And it means a lot to get feedback from people who are also industry related or just people who appreciate what we do, It's tough. We don't always get to pick our clientele, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's a big mixed bag.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Drinks and a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks and a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksandamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.